What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd talk about things to look for when trying to buy a first gen Cummins. The market right now has been pretty wild. It's kind of hard to find a first gen for a good price, and it seems like people are starting to ask more and more for these trucks. So I'm going to talk about kind of the things to look for when you're searching to buy one, and hopefully you guys learned something new and hopefully help some people out. So the first thing to look for is the year. So first gen started out in 1989, and 89 and 90 were the non-intercooled years. So you're gonna have some differences between the 89 and 90 versus your 91 through 93. So with also being non-intercooled, your 89 to 90, your trucks are going to have bigger injectors, but they are going to run hotter. So you're eventually going to want to have an intercooled truck if you plan on towing a ton or putting some power through her. So in contrast, the 91 to 93 intercooled first gens have a bigger turbo housing, and then also the body style's a little bit different. So the 89 to 90 trucks didn't have the old fancy Dodge grill right here, and that's the the factory intercooled 91 to 93 trucks right here. Some guys might argue that they like the body style, the front end grill to the 89 to 90. So yeah, take a look at them, see which one you like better. Some guys swap over the intercoolers into the older trucks. So it's kind of up to you what your personal preference is. So the second thing to look out for is to consider all your options. So with these trucks, you have quite a bit of options. You don't have a factory four-door first gen. Some guys converted them into four-door, but you do have two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, you have automatic, you have manual, you have single cab, extended cab. So you do have your options. You kind of have to figure out, hey, what am I doing with this truck and what makes sense? So down here in the South, here in Texas, my truck's the weekend warrior, so I'm not trying to beat on it for work or pull things out of the mud. So two-wheel drive made sense. Obviously, four-wheel drive is nice to have, and it can come in handy, and I might even swap over this truck eventually to four-wheel drive, but you don't really need it from the weekend warrior perspective. So also you got to think of, are you towing heavy things? Would dually help you out? Do you have a ton of people you want to haul around with, like the extended cab? For me, it's just me and my wife, so we don't need the flip out seats in the extended cab, so I went with single cab. There's also a story of a red first gen in California that I almost bought, that this truck really looks similar to, so that's another reason why this truck really was appealing to me. But anyway, the next thing to look for when purchasing a first gen Cummins is going to be owner history. So this one's tough. So it's getting harder and harder to find the barn finds, as they call them, the one owners, the guys that just didn't really beat on these trucks and just use them as their daily. Is it older responsible guys taking it easy, or guys horsing on it? You need to figure out what the owner history is, and with that owner history, does it have a clean title? Clean title for me is a must. And then we move into the condition. So condition is huge also in these trucks, because they're almost 30 years old. Some of them are a little bit older than 30 years old. So with the first thing being rust. So I'm going to cover rust in the second half of this video, but rust is a huge deal on these trucks, and if you live in the north, it's kind of inevitable. It's going to happen, but you want to minimize that rust problem as much as possible. And then it comes to miles. So rust, miles are important. So this truck has 243,000 miles, and I'm restoring her, so you might not be able to tell, at least by looking at the inside, that she has that many, but miles are important. So I'll tell you a quick story. So if you've seen my any earlier YouTube videos, you might have heard me talk about it, but my uncle has a first gen that he bought in '93, and he used it for towing. So he towed people's yachts, boats all over the United States. So he's been to Florida, California, back and forth everywhere. So his truck has 1.2 million miles on it, and he's just getting around to finally swapping out the engine. It's the original engine. So 243,000 miles. For me, it's not a big deal at all. I'm not really concerned with that, especially because I did get this from one registered owner. But miles are a factor. You know, if there's a bunch of owners, you don't know how people kept the vehicle, you know, what they did to service the vehicle, stuff like that. And miles are huge. So you wanna check that out. I know some people's concern with too low of miles is truck doesn't get driven, things will get lubricated, seals break, they wear out. I mean, these trucks are almost 30 years old, so you're going to be having to do some maintenance regardless. Too few miles might be a bad thing, and also, you know, like 500,000 to 700,000 miles probably isn't the best thing either. All right, so the next thing to look out for is how those miles on the truck were driven. So first thing you want to think of is, was this thing a tow pig, a workhorse? You know, did it have a gooseneck hitch hooked up to it more than half of its life? And what kind of gooseneck hitch was this hooked up to? So mine actually, ironically enough, came with a fifth wheel hitch, and apparently the one owner guy that owned this truck just used it for his fifth wheel camper. So I wasn't too concerned about this truck getting beat on too hard or anything like that. But, you know, that is something to think about. Hopefully they're just all highway miles and, you know, your truck isn't really abused. So the next thing you're going to want to think about is price. So in the market we're in right now, cars and trucks are stupid expensive. And, you know, if you want a truck that has, it's kind of like the holy grail, low miles, extended cab, four-wheel drive, 5-speed manual, the whole shebang, you're going to want to basically get out your checkbook. But if you're just trying to be conservative and have a nice first gen that works for you, you got to figure out what my options are, what's my price range, and how does that fit with both of those levels. So, yeah, you have guys that are selling one owner first gens that look like they came off the showroom floor with less than 100,000 miles for 30, 40, 50,000, you know, dollars, and that might sound ridiculous since the original price tag was 20 to 30,000 when they first came off the lot about 30 years ago. But, you know, these trucks are becoming iconic, they're becoming almost classic, and they're highly sought after. So you want to look at all these things. You want to kind of figure out, what's my budget, what am I using this truck for, what makes sense, and then kind of go from there and check out the market, start looking at trucks, start test driving, see what you like, and go from there. The other thing to think about is if you're willing to put in some elbow grease, roll up the sleeves, and start working on it. You might be able to get a truck that isn't perfect, but it's worth the time, it's worth the effort, it's worth a little bit of money on the weekends thrown into it to make it what you want. So we're gonna, before I go into the next half of the video showing you the donor truck and where the rust areas are, I'll just go ahead and show you a quick detour of my truck and what I chose. All right, so I chose a 93 first gen intercooled, and this actually was the LE model, which has a number of modern day features. So it's going to have power mirrors, power door locks, power windows, cruise control. It's going to have the whole nine. So I really like that. I'll show you guys. It was a little bit sun faded, but we're gonna get it the new paint job here soon. Ended up adding the coveted factory tachometer. It's got power everything there. 5-speed manual. Here's the old window sticker, which I think is pretty dang cool. Let's see, back in the day, this came out to be 21,457. Pretty cool. And then of course you have the old manuals and everything, and seat flips back. It's pretty sweet. Show you guys under the hood. Got the old intercooler behind the grill. Upgraded our turbo housing. If you haven't seen my other video, go ahead and check it out. Makes a huge difference. All right, so we're gonna move on to the second part of the video, and I'm gonna show you my donor truck, basically the skeleton, the bare bones of this truck, and show you where typical rust spots are and things to look out for. So let's get to it. All right, what's happening, guys? So we're out here in hot, sunny Texas. I'm gonna try to make this brief. It's about 90 degrees, and I've been out here pulling the windshield off, baking out here in the sun. So we'll try to make this brief. But we have the old parts truck, and I'm gonna show you the progress on parting her out, and also I'm gonna show you what to look for under the scenes of a first-gen Cummins when you're looking to buy it. Took the bed liner out here, pulled the camper shell off. We sold the doors, we sold the steering column. Ironically enough, just sold the windshields, sold the automatic transmission, and sold the fenders. Tore this truck up pretty good, and we're not done yet. So I would say the first thing to look for when you are wanting to buy a first-gen Cummins is you want to look at the rockers, because they rust really, really bad, especially in the Rust Belt. Those of you guys that are living up there know what I'm talking about. And I'm from Michigan, so I definitely know what rust is and how it can destroy a vehicle. So the rockers right here, this truck is a good example of bad rockers. So right here you got really bad rust, so that's a bad thing. You don't want that, okay? So that's the first thing to look out for. Second thing is I would look at the roof. So when you're looking up here, most of them are going to be sun faded if they've been sitting out in the sun at all, but right up here in the crack you kind of get water settling in this trough here, and that's little pieces of paint flaking off. But what that can do is that can actually lead to rust up under by the windshield, and here is a main concern spot. This is right underneath the driver's seat, right down under there in front of and around the driver's seat. So when you pull the carpet up, hopefully it doesn't look like this. Right here we got pretty bad rust. It's flexing there a little bit, and I already pushed a hole through that earlier. And yeah, that's just a bunch of loose rust, so that's not good. Definitely do not want that. Now the bed, another spot you're gonna look for rust. Obviously, you know, check it out up under this truck. Actually, like, that's the actual bed, that's not bad. The frame's got some rust. You want to look at the frame too. Now this is flaking, starting to pit, so that's not good, but it's not anything you can shove your hand through, okay? So as long as you can't shove your hand through it and it's structurally sound, you can do your best to repair it and bring her back to working order, so you can prevent it so it doesn't rust out even more. But the bed up underside looks good, and honestly this bed looks pretty dang good. Show you a walk around here, because I have that liner in there, it really looks nice and straight. But a key area place they rust, boom, right underneath this fender well. So I went ahead and took the time to undo the fender lining. What you can do is you can reach your hand up in here and you can feel the rust. So I'll just let that down and show you that that is all rusted out, so that is not good. Now it's something that can be repaired, but obviously if you're not a welder, that could get pretty expensive. So yeah, you don't want to be dealing with that if you don't have to. And again, rocker's not good. So yeah, that's all flexing right there. It's not normal. So yeah, she's seen a little bit of rust, but we're not gonna totally just destroy this truck. We're gonna end up selling it to a guy that has a truck that he can't title anymore. I guess it went to the wrecker or something like that, and It got saved right at the end, but it's not, it went too far past the point where the DMV won't let it be retitled. So this one's got a clean title, and we're gonna save a first gen Cummins out there and get one back on the road selling this cab. So yeah, I mean, here it is, guys. Pulled a lot of stuff so far. It's been awesome. It's been a good experience. Been learning how to take off all these parts, and I'm gonna learn how to put them back on my truck. So stay tuned. I'm gonna show you guys some more awesome content, and as always, keep her tuned.